What's going on, everybody? We're live. It is Wednesday morning, and it is time once again for the Going Broadway podcast. Alex and Cole with you this morning, as always. Cole, what's happening?
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the greatest wrestling podcast ever. Man, oh man. I had a great 4th of July weekend. Hopefully you guys did too.
Agreed, and we had such a good 4th of July, and post 4th of July, I've not had a chance to watch any wrestling for the last 2 or 3 days. So we're going to do a Q&A show this morning and just chat with all of you guys. And, we'll go through Great American Bash last night. I mean, I still would like to go back and watch it, but, I mean, I've already seen who our winners and losers were. And, I mean, to me, spoilers aren't that big of a deal if it's not a pay-per-view, if that makes sense. So before we jump in, let's see who we got on here this morning. Scrolling back up here, Billy Ray Milburn, good morning. Jeremy Stoneberger, good morning. Mark, good morning. Art by Dewey Curfew. Hopefully I said that right. Bruce Jackson, Jeremy Pickering, Drew Dewey Eggers, Matt Sylvie, Nathan Herrera, Todd Nichols, Michael Hunter, Jeffrey Capo. A blanket good morning to everybody, David Tilley. A blanket good morning to you all, and hopefully that blanket of good morning keeps you warm. Bad joke, but I don't even care. Yeah, we'll go through NXT Great American Bash. And we can lead in with that if we want to. I was going to say something, and I just, in the process, that's what it was. So if this is your first time watching us, let us know. Or if it's your first time watching us in a while, let us know. We just like to give proper shout-outs to you all that join us, whether it's your first time or first time in a while. Let us know. And like I said, let's lead in with Great American Bash. But like I said, this is going to be a mostly Q&A show. So if you have any questions, get them in, and we will take those as we go throughout the podcast. That being said, you probably noticed that there is another part of our title this morning that said free giveaway. At some point during our podcast, we will be doing a free giveaway. I'm not going to say when. You'll just have to stick around. And hopefully you're watching us live whenever we give this away. It is a copy of Chris Jericho's new complete list of book. Brand new. I mean, the pages are just crisp. So one lucky winner will come away with that book this morning. But you have to stick around and find out when we're giving it away. One of you will be, hopefully one of you that is watching now will still be watching us later and be our winner. So, Great American Bash, like I said, let's lead in with that. So I was telling Cole before we went live this morning, the betting odds really favored, let's put it this way. If Cole and I put money on this pay-per-view, the betting odds really would have been in our favor in the end. So let's put it this way. The betting odds were wrong when it came to all 3 title matches. So the NXT tag title match and the $1 million title match or $1 million championship match, whatever, favored title changes in both those matches. And then in the NXT women's tag title match, it favored the champions at the time. So let's just go through these one by one. And Cole, you can add. Did you watch Great American Bash?
Yes.
Okay. I will let you add any sort of commentary that you would like since you have watched it. I've also seen other websites and such grade individual matches as well as the event in its entirety. So the first match, opening match, was MSK defeating Tommaso Ciampa and Timothy Thatcher. The match went almost 12 minutes. MSK retains. Your thoughts?
So this match for 12 minutes had a lot packed into it. I was very entertained. I thought this was a great match to start the night off with. There was a lot of intensity when they came out to the ring. You know, Ciampa and Thatcher just have a way of kind of creating that big match feel in a sense with their intensity. So I was very pumped about the match. You had mentioned the betting odds and whatnot of the people that were putting bets on this, like how it was favoring pretty much everybody that didn't win. So I thought it was this was probably one of the very few matches where I could have saw people picking Ciampa and Thatcher just because of the nature of their singles career, the tag team run that they've had thus far. I was like, maybe this is the night. Maybe MSK is getting moved on to some other storyline. I don't know.
So you picked MSK in this one, though.
I did. I went MSK just because, honestly, there's not another tag team on NXT right now that just is doing it like MSK. Their in-ring ability alone is more exciting than most of tag team wrestling in general.
I mean, at this point, it almost seems cliche, but it really is on NXT. You have MSK here, and then everyone else is like 2-3 steps. I mean, and that's no disrespect to Ciampa or Thatcher, but they're kind of they've been a team for a while, but they were just kind of thrown together. So it's like,
when it comes to the in-ring ability of tag team, though, MSK has it.
right.
And their mic work's not amazing. I do think, and I hope that while they're on NXT, they can find a way to find themselves on the mic a little bit better.
Agreed.
But as far as in-ring ability, there's just no one that's doing it like they are.
Real quick, you look really tiny. You got to lift your chair up or something, or I got to shrink mine.
My chair just went down again.
Well, no, you got to sit up in it. And there you go.
Ooh, am I taller now? Am I better?
I have an idea.
Woo. So yes, so MSK, I was very impressed with them. And honestly, after watching last night's match, this is just my personal opinion. I think MSK should have this super long tag title run.
I agree.
Like, I mean, maybe set the record for holding the belts for the longest. Like,
and I was actually about ready to look to see who has that record. Continue.
If I had to guess, it's probably Undisputed Era.
For an individual reign, though, because, I mean, there have been,
I guess they did hold it, like, on and off. I would be curious to know, too, because it's probably even, like, maybe the Revival or...
So the longest single reign... Wow. You will be shocked by this.
Who is it?
It's the Ascension.
No, I'm not shocked by that because they were really big on NXT, and that's why they got called up and pushed so hard. What's their reign?
360. Well, so 364, but days recognized as 343.
So almost a year.
So Undisputed Era is not even second. Well, technically they're tied for second in terms of days. Undisputed Era is tied for 219 days actually holding it. That's not days recognized. They're tied with Blake and Murphy at 219 days. But if you look at days recognized, that is days recognized by WWE, Blake and Murphy have the edge at 205 versus 198.
Gotcha. Okay, so I would say...
And actually, sorry, one last tidbit. If you go by days recognized, they're not even fourth. Authors of Pain are third at 202.
Someone Drew was saying Authors of Pain would have been his guess. So I think MSK should hold them beyond the Ascension. I think to set them on the right path, have them hold the belts for this record-long year.
Give them like 16 months.
Whatever the case is, have them hold it. Have them just run the gauntlet in NXT. Doesn't mean that there can't be close calls. Doesn't mean that there can't be longer feuds where there's more than one match. But have them run the gauntlet with every tag team possible in NXT. And then when that reign is over, then you can move them along. Because matches with them and like the Street Profits would be amazing. If New Day's still around, just the nostalgia of New Day's tag team and mic skills and whatnot with MSK would be fun.
I'll tell you a match I'd love to see if a certain individual could get his drinking issues addressed would be Usos.
Yeah, the Usos would be a good one to watch as well. So and there's other tag teams obviously, but there are even the War Raiders. I actually wouldn't mind seeing like the big guy versus little guy type tag team. So Lot of different things they could do, but I was very impressed with MSK. I'm glad they got the win. I did pick MSK to win this, and I would say that this is probably one of the only matches that I would see why you would pick the opposing team.
So I mentioned to you that whenever we did our predictions last week, I picked Ciampa and Thatcher just as kind of a bravery / stepping out of the box kind of pick, which depending on the pay-per-view or depending on the event that we're giving predictions for, I'll try to throw one of those in if it's applicable, I guess. Maybe that's not the right word. But if I were actually to put money on the pay-per-view, I probably would have bet on MSK just because they were the underdogs, and this match would have been, to me, when it comes to betting odds and like betting terms, if you will, to me this would almost be like a pick'em kind of situation where it's 50-50.
Yep.
I'm just surprised that Ciampa and Thatcher were favored when it comes to the betting odds. I mean, I'm not surprised that their odds were high, but to me this almost could have been just like a 50-50, again, pick'em kind of situation. But with MSK being the underdog as far as the betting scenarios, I probably would have bet on MSK just because I was like, oh, they're underdogs. I could, like I told you before we went on, I could make money on this match, and
yep.
I would have. So,
to answer a couple of questions I saw in the chat thread here, Drew asked, where are the Authors of Pain, by the way? I like those guys. I know they were released, obviously, back, was that last year?
It's been a while.
I'm shocked we actually haven't seen them surface in like I don't see them being like AEW tag team worthy. I could see them in Impact. I could see them in NWA. I could see them in ROH.
They were released September 4th of last year.
And I think one of them was injured, though. I could be wrong on that, or had a lagging injury. I'm not sure, but I would say that if they haven't surfaced by now, it's probably because there wasn't much interest in them.
So I read something, and this has been probably a month or so ago, with just conflicting reports on where they're at, just a general update on them. And the original story, article, whatever, was put out by Fightful, and the report was, so they were brought up to AEW management in 2020, but they weren't sure if the pair would be a good fit with the company. Although the door was left open, they were also brought up to management in New Japan, but they weren't interested in bringing in new talent at the time. They basically have been. So here's where the conflict arises. So a promoter either reached out to Fightful or vice versa, but the promoter told Fightful that both men had actually retired from wrestling, but then one of them posted on Twitter that basically refuting that, and in so many words like, you haven't seen The Last of Us or whatever. So who knows? But the fact that they've not been in they've not done anything in a wrestling capacity for almost a year, part of me wonders if we will ever see them again, because if they're not going to come back sooner than later, I mean, the fact they haven't been back for almost a year, you lose your momentum no matter how good you are, no matter your appearance, no matter if you have the look.
See, I would have put them with Zelina Vega. I just thought that would have been a better manager for them. I thought that the Drake Maverick thing wasn't really a good fit, especially when they were doing like the Aztec type thing, and then putting them with Seth Rollins. I get the purpose behind it, but it just seemed like it didn't fit.
I agree. It just felt off.
So I definitely would have put them with like a Zelina Vega.
Maybe not off. Forced is the right word.
Right. Or if they went AEW, I could see like Andrade being like the leader and having those two be like, that tag team that's with him, kind of. Not that AEW needs another faction, but I could see something along those lines, especially if they were to ever consider trio titles. Those three would be a phenomenal team to put into that conversation.
I don't think I'm on board with them in AEW. I think they're more a fit with like if New Japan and Impact are still going to have this, talent share, whatever you want to call it, to me they'd be more of a fit with.
I like Impact,
either Impact or New Japan. I think Impact would be a more likely scenario with maybe competing with New Japan while they're doing their U.S. show. I forgot what it's called already, and I'm struggling to think of what it's called, but they I got to look it up real quick because it's going to bug me. New Japan Strong. So they're
Thomas says Ring of Honor.
I think no, and I know I sound like a broken record saying this. No disrespect to Ring of Honor, I kind of feel like that if they return sooner or later, they would kind of be above Ring of Honor. I mean, that's just my opinion. I mean, that's again, no disrespect to Ring of Honor or the guys that are in Ring of Honor. I mean, not to get off topic, I still say guys like Jay Lethal and I think Matt Taven's still with Ring of Honor. Guys like that, they need and deserve a bigger platform. And I get that they made the choice to stay with Ring of Honor, but it's just
I don't know how the money scene looks in the independents, but there obviously is a rhyme and reason. As here I'm the main guy, so I get all the money, I get all the merch, I get everyone coming to my table. Where if I go to New Japan, I'm now the middle card guy, and I don't get that money, and I don't get that merch push, and I don't get those things.
Right.
I think Jay Lethal would kill it in NXT.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think Jay Lethal would kill it in AEW.
He would kill it wherever he goes.
Even an Impact return would be huge for him, just because he would probably get skyrocketed to the.
Because there you'd have the nostalgia aspect of it.
But I think Jay Lethal, why he still has some in the tank, like. NXT is very intriguing to me for him, just because there's an open door for him to just get shot straight to the top.
I agree. And speaking of NXT, kind of
segue back,
took a hop, skip, and a jog away from.
We're Q&A show today, so I saw questions. I was like,
no, that's fine.
Let's answer them.
LA Knight defeats Cameron Grimes in a match that went a little over 13 minutes. Cameron Grimes is now LA Knight's butler. So how was the match itself?
I felt like match one for them was better. This match wasn't. Let me put it this way: this match was not bad. A lot of close calls. A lot of again, kind of the same thing they did in the ladder match. A lot of,
but that's just it. You hit on it. The first match was a ladder match. You can't really top a gimmick match followed by just a standard one-on-one match.
They had a good standard one-on-one match. I think, honestly, I get why they did it when they did it for the belt. But if they would have flipped the matches, I probably would have been a better build, in my opinion. Of having them have a regular match, maybe for the belt, and then do the ladder match at Great American Bash. Again, I get why they did it the way they did it with Ted DiBiase involved and all those things, but I just think the first match was really good, and this one was still good, but I don't think it matched or came close to the ladder match. So definitely best spot for it on the card was second, because there was such a really good first match. This match didn't feel like it hurt the card, but I thought it was a pretty predictable match. Honestly, I told you ahead of time, anytime that you put a stipulation where someone's going to be somebody's butler,
right?
Honestly, I just don't see that person winning at that point.
To me, it's Wrestling 101. I mean, we touched on it last week. I'm just shocked that Cameron Grimes was favored in this match from a betting odds standpoint to win the $1 million belt. It just, Wrestling 101, it doesn't make any sense that there would be a title change here. You have a stipulation of such and such becomes the other person's butler or manager or whatever the stipulation is. I mean, again, Wrestling 101 logic would say so-and-so is going to be the other person's butler. Like, they're going to lose the match.
Well, and the issue I have with it is that it wasn't even a title that's really recognized heavy in NXT. We just introduced this $1 million belt back into the fold.
Yeah.
So there wasn't this big match feel like, oh, Cameron could do this, and the story doesn't feel like it's over yet. So it doesn't make sense for him to win it. Like, especially when then you put the butler. Like, let's just reflect back on some butler stories. We just had AEW do a butler storyline, and he lost.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was the butler. You go back and look at WWE. This is a recycled storyline with a bit of a twist to it. There's been several times where someone lost. I had to go be somebody else's, right-hand man or whatever you want to call that position. And I would almost be willing to bet 100% of the time they've lost the match and had to be the right-hand man. Like,
Yeah.
it just goes without saying. So I was obviously, I get, because they've been trying to push Cameron Grimes to be a face, I think the Butler thing just will help solidify that even more.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the vignettes are going to be off the charts.
But everybody's already behind him now, so everybody wants to put the betting odds on him, and I'm just like, I just don't understand. Like, logically speaking, when money's involved, you got to go with logic. Mm-hmm. Look at the track record here. It doesn't make sense for Cameron Grimes to win this match. I thought it was a good match, but ultimately, I would have been jaw-dropped shocked if LA Knight lost that match.
So I'm going to address Steven's question. Steven, I don't know if you've just joined us recently. He asked any thoughts on the new Jericho book. I think it's very good. And just to reiterate, we are giving away a copy on today's podcast. So at some point during the podcast, we're going to be giving this away to one lucky winner. I'm not going to say when, though, so you got to stick around. And hopefully one of you watching live right now will win this later on in the show. Let's see. Match number 3, Io Shirai and Zoe Stark defeat Candice and Indy to win the NXT Women's Tag Titles. This match went about 8 minutes long.
All right, so this
was a swerve.
This one probably has the most to unpack other than the main event. And then the reason why I say that is that I honestly, if we were to take betting odds out of it and we were just to look at the card itself, this would have been the match that I thought I would have seen a retain, no doubt. One, Great American Bash. I was almost looking for it to be all retains just because it wasn't a pay-per-view. But throughout the match, I even told you this. I was like, they like to throw people together and give them the belts. I don't understand why. I still can't, even with it being NXT, I expect better of them in this department, is that you have so many good tag teams that have been established. Why is Stark and Io Shirai getting the tag belts when you have other tag teams? Like, I would much rather see Casey Catanzaro and, why am I blanking on her name right now? I actually like her too. She's really good. Zayden Carter. You're gonna tell me here. Caden Carter. I actually like their style a lot better, and they're an established tag team. Why aren't they in there? The Robert Stone Brands tag team is more established than Io Shirai and Stark. Like, mm-hmm. I didn't understand Mei Ying and Xia Li. Like, there are so many other women that have established a tag team-esque type thing that I would be much more entertained. That's why I was telling you when they were entertaining Io Shirai being in the tag picture, I really thought Saray was the better pick to be Io's partner. Not because they're necessarily Japanese or that same ethnicity or whatever.
Yeah.
But I really liked the play on words of the Empress of the Sky, and I believe Saray's the Empress of the Sun. Like, you could do this whole Empress thing. Like, they already have it set up for you, basically. And I really thought they missed it, especially since they did this huge debut for Saray. They were like, she's going to be one of the best things that we have here. I know they're pushing Stark, but I almost would have rather seen Stark continue to be pushed in the mid-card scene of the women's division there. But ultimately, they give the belts to Io and Stark. This feels like it's a short-lived run, though. I just don't see... The problem with these thrown together tag teams, I don't see them lasting long.
Well, here's the thing. All the NXT women's tag title reigns have been short-lived. Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez, less than a day. Ember Moon, Shotzi Blackheart, 55 days. And Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell, 63 days. Yep. So I give this reign a month.
I give it to the next pay-per-view. Simple as that. Like,
and that's just it. It doesn't even have to be on a pay-per-view. I mean, let's look at this. All of these reigns have not been on a pay-per-view, and I'm Great American Bash, it's just a weekly special. It's not a pay-per-view. All of these title changes have been on just NXT TV.
Right.
So
I don't know who the build is going to be for. It almost seemed like they didn't want Candice LeRae and Shotzi to lose it to a team that's established, which is weird. So I'm kind of curious of what they're doing going forward because there's a lot to unpack. Match was decent. I wouldn't say it was amazing. I thought the match was good for what it was. Again, I don't see the chemistry on Stark and Shirai, so I was like, this is okay. But at the end of the match, we did get the return of Tegan Nox. I actually really enjoyed how they did it. I know you haven't seen it yet. I'm not going to bring it up.
You can. I mean, like I said, like I told you before we went live, spoilers to me aren't really.
It was really cool because it was during the match. The lights go black on the back Titantron. Since we're still doing the Titantron, the screens around the building, on the back Titantron of the ring, there was a charging, like a phone charger that said 99%, and then it moved to 100.
Well, yeah, it's that battery thing that they've been airing. Those vignettes they've been aired for like the last 3 or 4 weeks,
and it hit 100%, and I was like, oh snap, who's this? Like, because I was like, I hadn't been watching the vignettes. I had just been watching matches on NXT, really.
And that's just it. Like these battery vignettes, if you blink, you might miss it. I mean, it's not been.
They've been subtle, and so like when the lights came back on, I almost didn't recognize her. I was like, "Is that Tegan Nox?" And I was pumped. I was like, first I told you before the injury, I thought she was really getting ready to get a major push in the singles picture. So I think her coming back is going to open a few with Candice LeRae. Obviously, once that's over, we could see her challenge for. There's the Dakota Kai background there. We could see her feud with Raquel and Dakota.
There's a lot of options there.
A lot of things going on. So that was a lot to unpack. But then also, at the end of the match, we see Dexter Lumis come out and pick up Indy Hartwell and walk her.
Which for whatever reason, I'm really intrigued by that. It kind of cracks me up.
Index.
Yeah.
I thought that storyline was like shot in the foot, over with, like done. But they bring him out. He picks her up, and they walk out of the arena together. So a lot to unpack in this match for something that was a major title change. It almost felt underwhelming at the end for EO and Stark because there was these other two storylines going on at the time. You had Tegan Nox come out and pretty much attack Candice LeRae out of the building. And I was like, okay, still camera's not really on Stark or Shirai. Like they gave him a little bit of a celebration, but then it goes to break, and during the break they come back and show that Index is back together, a thing again. So It's like, okay, so we're not even really going to mention that they won the titles. It almost felt like it was done under the radar, and I was like, oh, this is an interesting. The only title change of the night, and you kind of overshadow it with two other storylines.
I'm trying to look up. So that's who it was. So Tegan Nox actually wrestled a dark match before WWE main event a few days ago. She wrestled Toni Storm. I don't know who won the match. Kind of irrelevant because we'll probably never see it. But I'm sure that was done because her return has been planned for Great American Bash.
Right.
Last match. Got to get back to my screen here because I've been jumping around all over the place. Adam Cole defeats Kyle O'Reilly in a match that went a little over 20 minutes. Your thoughts?
Match 2 of 3.
For sure.
This, again, the only thing that sucks about this match is that I felt like I knew the winner before the match ever started. I told you as soon as they build it as Cole versus O'Reilly 2,
yeah,
I was like, well, then there's going to be a 3.
That automatically implies there's going to be at least a 3.
Which to me means that if Kyle got the first one, Cole has to get the second one. Mm-hmm. So I felt like I knew the winner ahead of time.
Is that why you wore that shirt today?
No, actually, I just
thought. Continue.
I just picked the shirt, honestly, this morning. So
real quick, though, speaking of shirts, I would love it if... So my shirt's a throwback to whenever Magnum TA and Nikita Koloff had their best of 7 for the U.S. title. I would love it if NXT every once in a while would kind of throw in an old school retro throwback kind of thing, I would love to have Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly best of 7. Because if it's a best of 7, it's going to go 7 matches. It's not going to do. They're not going to go 7 matches because if you're going to have a best of 7, that you need to promote that. You need to.
It's ahead of time.
Yeah. So maybe not Cole and O'Reilly necessarily, although I'd love to see that, but just something along those lines where you could have like a Johnny Gargano and Kyle O'Reilly, or there's a good number of guys you can throw in there, but just
they have to be the well-rounded. They have to be someone who can carry the mic, carry a match, do different things in each match. Like, it's got to be somebody who's well versatile, which unfortunately NXT only has probably about 5 or 6 guys who could really do that.
But really, though, 5 or 6 guys, when compared to any other brand in wrestling, is a lot.
True.
I mean, you can probably count on one hand total the number of guys on Raw, SmackDown. I'll just group Raw, SmackDown, and AEW. You could probably count on one hand the number of guys on all 3 brands combined that could do that.
Right.
Anyway, just thought.
I agree.
Continue.
So, I picked Adam Cole to win this match. The only match I got wrong was the way not retaining. Which, hindsight, I probably should have went Io and Stark, just knowing their track record of throwing people together. But regardless, I picked Cole to win this. It was a good, let's be honest. Anytime Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole are in the ring, it's going to be a good match. I don't know if you can top the match. Adam Cole versus Kyle O'Reilly 3 is going to have to be like an Iron Man, no disqualification match, or like something.
It's going to be a cage, Hell in a Cell kind of situation.
Takes it to a new level, right? Because their first match was so good that this one, again, it's one of those, I felt like match 2 didn't really live up to match 1. I felt like match 1 had so much more going on in it.
So I'm going to jump the gun a little bit real quick, and I'm only doing this because I was going to get to this later. So once you're finished, I'm going to go through. No, actually, I'll save what I'm going to say once you're done. But I want to go through Bleacher Reports, in particular, their grade, and like kind of give a brief description of their analysis for each match, just to kind of compare it to how you graded it and all that stuff. So I'll say what I was going to say, but sorry, go ahead.
And again, if we're judging it like if this was a match that we've never seen before, I would be like, whoa, that was a really good match. The problem is I saw Kyle O'Reilly versus Adam Cole 1, and I just felt like that match had such a higher feel to it. It was bigger. The match felt bigger. The stuff that was done in it felt bigger. This one, because it was just a straight wrestling match, it was really good for a straight wrestling match. But they didn't have a straight wrestling match in Kyle O'Reilly versus Adam Cole 1, which is, again, I feel like you're going backwards. Not that straight wrestling matches aren't good, but anytime you add a stipulation to a match or a specialty to a match, they just automatically get more spots, if you will.
Yeah.
And so to start off Adam Cole versus Kyle O'Reilly with, what was it, an unsanctioned match or whatever it was called?
I think that's what it was.
Or no DQ. Whatever. Kyle O'Reilly used a chain on his knees is what I'm getting at to win the match. So, like, that's when you have a standard wrestling match as your second match, it's like,
Yeah, it is an unsanctioned match.
So really,
back in April.
So really, this was Kyle O'Reilly, Adam Cole 1, because if that doesn't count as a win technically, then you know what I mean. Like,
yeah, that makes sense.
But either way, I thought it was good. Don't get me wrong, match of the night, phenomenal match. But when you compare it to what they've already done, I don't think it was close to the first match that they had.
So Thomas asks, how did Meltzer grade it? I don't know. Usually I don't see Meltzer's ratings until at least a few days after a particular event. But let's do this. I want to go through Bleacher Report's grades and analysis and compare it to yours. But let's work backwards. Let's start with this match that you just talked about. What would you give Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, 2. What grade would you give that?
We giving it off a letter grade?
Yeah.
I'd probably be sitting at like an A-.
Okay. That's exactly what Bleacher Report gave it. But here's their analysis. NXT gave Cole and Kyle O'Reilly plenty of time to deliver, and the two did what they do best. The two kept a firm focus on their shared knee injuries. It helps that they have so much chemistry to make every signature move feel unique. Here's the part I find intriguing. This was better than their first match, which was too long to the point of near parody. This time around, the two told a more focused story with TV time remaining. While some spots still went over the top, it was easy to invest in the story. The result likely means Cole versus O'Reilly will extend to a third match. While this is NXT's standard, it seems unnecessary if WWE wanted to truly commit to O'Reilly as a rising star.
The only thing I would disagree with that whole statement is that it was better than their first match. I didn't feel like their first match went too long. I didn't feel like their first match was all over the place or any of those comments that they made. I feel like the first match was the perfect length, perfect storytelling. I thought it was literally great. I was very impressed with it. This one was good. Like, don't get me wrong, A-. I thought, like, for the night that it was, great main event. I don't see any of those things. I also would probably disagree with the fact that if you want Kyle O'Reilly to kind of be this single star now and to really have something beyond Adam Cole, you need Adam Cole versus Kyle O'Reilly 3. You need Kyle O'Reilly to go over. I think it was Drew that mentioned it in the chat. The stipulation would be really great if one of them had to leave NXT, like loser leaves and can never come back or whatever the case is. I think that would be dope because that would be the perfect way to segue Adam Cole out, give Kyle O'Reilly the reins of NXT in a sense by doing that. So you can then set up Kyle O'Reilly versus Karrion Kross or whoever the champion is at the time. If Kyle O'Reilly's going North American, it could lead to a Roderick Strong, Kyle O'Reilly type storyline because Roderick Strong's kind of playing around in the cruiserweight North American area, it kind of looks like right now. So a lot of things that could happen there. So I'm intrigued, but I think you have to have the third one to have Adam Cole lose, put Kyle O'Reilly over, and it'd be really dope if that stipulation was, hey, loser leaves, Adam Cole leaves.
Loser leaves town.
And we see Adam Cole on SmackDown or Raw.
The problem I have with giving a match a grade is, and I'm just as guilty of this as anybody, I don't feel like that the timing of a match should be subjective to grading or subjective to a grade. Hold on just 1 second, guys. I need to respond to a quick text. Like I said, I'm just as guilty of this. When it comes to giving a match a grade and factoring in, well, if a match went too long or if it's too quick or whatever, part of the issue is if you're comparing a match between the same two guys or the same two tag teams or whatever on a timed weekly show versus, maybe they had another match on a pay-per-view where they weren't maybe as subjective to time constraints or whatever, that's kind of a thing to factor in. And saying a match went too long and for that reason saying it was worse than the second match, it's kind of like comparing apples and oranges. Again, and I'm just as guilty of it. I'll probably be guilty of it again at some point in the future, but I don't know. I just feel like that, and I don't know how to put it into words, I guess, but you almost can't give in my opinion anyway, you almost can't give a match grade and way too heavily on the match length, too long or too short or whatever. So from what I'm hearing, based on watching the first match, having not watched the second match yet, but based on what I'm reading in the chat, what I've read on Bleacher Report, what you've said, to me it almost feels like the second match was better and Bleacher Report is just, in my opinion, wrong. A lot of it could depend on whoever from Bleacher Report watched the first match. They may be one of those people that just, You
said it, though. It's comparing apples to oranges. We're talking about an unsanctioned match on a pay-per-view that was the main event versus a weekly special episodic show with a 20-minute time limit pretty much, because that's how much was left of the show. They got to the end of the show.
Right.
To put on a regular match, you're comparing apples to oranges. An unsanctioned match should go long. An unsanctioned match should have a lot of twists and turns to it. An unsanctioned match is supposed to have that. A normal wrestling match typically doesn't have that many twists and turns to it. It doesn't have much of a way for it to go outside of what's in the ring.
Right.
You can't go outside the ring for 20 minutes. You can't go into the crowd. You can't do any of that stuff because you got the 10-second count out rule. So you're comparing apples to oranges, and I just feel like
it could also just be in a not an attention span kind of thing, but it's easier. Let's face it, for a more new school fan, it is easier to watch a 10-minute match as opposed to a 30. It just is what it is. I mean, people that are more fans of the current product, which there's nothing wrong with that, that's fine. They're more accustomed to watching the 5-10-minute matches, even on a pay-per-view, and there's nothing wrong with that. Whereas an old school fan like me, I'm used to seeing 15 to 25, 30 or more minute matches on a pay-per-view, on TV, whatever. I don't blink an eye, and it's not a big deal. So Anyway, I want to go through the rest of these grades real quick. These other three matches will kind of rapid fire. So the women's tag title match, what would you give that? What would your letter grade be?
I'm probably sitting at like a B minus.
Okay. Bleacher Report gave it a B. They basically said it's a good title match, but it's kind of overshadowed by Tegan Knox's return, which is understandable.
Yep. I would agree with that.
How about the NXT? Sorry. Let's do the Cameron Knight LA Knight match. What would you give that?
It was a good match. Probably a B. It was good. I'd be sitting in a B.
Okay. Bleacher Report gave it a B plus. They basically said everything we said, that content of the match might not have lived up to the highest standard, but a lot of that in large part was due to their first match being a ladder match. Storytelling outshined. This should only give Grimes more fan support being stuck in a Butler role. So,
yeah.
Okay. This is the other intriguing thing I wanted to get to. What would you give the men's NXT tag title match?
Probably a B plus.
Okay. So Bleacher Report gave it an A. This was their match of the night.
Okay, so let me put it this way. At the beginning of the show, I had thought maybe, just maybe, this could have been match of the night because there was so much packed into it. The only issue I had with making it match of the night is that it was won via a roll-up pin.
The old school boy.
And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it was a swerve to the match, which is what made the match great. It was a swerve because I didn't expect Thatcher to get rolled up that way with how the match was going. I thought it was going for a big finish, but he got rolled up. I just felt like that's not the way match of the night should end.
It's very anticlimactic. Here's the other thing, too. I feel like Bleacher Report kind of contradicted themselves. So they gave it a grade A. They say it was the best match on paper, and it delivered to the point of being their match of the night. But they conclude their analysis by saying the pacing could have been tighter, and there could have been more drama. Ciampa and Thatcher can adjust and improve on this effort all the more. So it's like it's their match of the night, but they're...
See, I felt like the intensity was there. There's not much of a story there to begin with. Let's not act like this has been building for months.
Right.
This was built in 2 to 3 weeks.
Sure.
So the storyline's not really there to begin with. The intensity was there. The level of competition was there. which is what made it a great match. It's not a great story. Let's just be real. It's not a great story. And if Bleacher Report's including storyline into it, then yeah, this could have had some improvements for sure. I wouldn't have thrown this match. This would not have been the match I would have put together, in my opinion. I felt like this kind of match had a pay-per-view-esque type feel, and it needed more time to breathe a little bit. So I don't think I could call it match of the night. I think Cole and Riley get my match of the night. But I would have said B+. I was flirting with an A-, but I gave Cole and Riley an A-, and I just kind of felt like I don't think it's the same. And plus, it's a 12-minute match. Like, you can only do so much in 12 minutes. 12 versus 20, and they're both really good. I just have to lean towards the 20-minute because they still got to unpack a lot more than what you could do in 12.
Not to mention, you've got 4 guys as opposed to 2 in a 12-minute match. So
I told you, it was jam-packed. There was a lot going on the entire match. A very, very MSK-paced match, in my opinion. It was very upbeat, very fast-paced, but yeah.
Tell you what, guys, we promised a Q&A show, so let's get to some questions. There were some that were submitted ahead of time. Let's tackle our buddy David Tilley, who's always so prompt
a book of questions.
So prompt at submitting his questions. I actually like it, and not that I don't like any of his questions, but some of his questions are very thought-provoking, and you almost need to take a week to get to them. This one's pretty straightforward. He says, "You guys are in charge of the WWE draft. Who goes where?"
Well,
I mean, we don't have to do the whole draft, but just I kind of read that as far as just
give me a number. Give me a number for each show to switch. How many are we switching for each show?
Okay, just for purposes of this question, let's just say we're moving 2 to NXT, we're moving 2 to SmackDown, and we're moving 2 to Raw. Doesn't matter from where.
Okay.
We're just moving 2 each.
So from NXT, I would definitely move Adam Cole. I don't know if anybody was to tell me 2 other names, I would be like, I just don't know how you got to that.
Well, let's do this. We're not saying take 2 from each. We're just saying we're placing 2 in NXT, 2 on Raw,
so
2 on SmackDown.
I'm gonna say I'll do SmackDown first.
Okay.
SmackDown, I would put Adam Cole on SmackDown.
I agree.
And I would probably I'd probably move AJ Styles back to SmackDown.
Okay.
I probably would put AJ Styles back on SmackDown.
Okay. So your 2 SmackDown are taken care of.
I would probably put
By the way, I'm grouping if you want to move a tag team, I'm counting that as 1.
As 1, okay. I would move. There's so many good people that you can move. I would move.
I love this question, by the way.
I would probably move Kevin Owens back to Raw.
Okay.
And I would move.
Let's do this. Let's give Raw 3 because of the
3 hours. Okay, so I'd move Kevin Owens back to Raw. I would move Tommaso Ciampa to Raw.
Oh, I like it.
And I would move. I have so many names in my head. Cesaro to Raw.
Okay.
And then people to NXT.
Yeah.
This is the fun one. I would Keith Lee to NXT for sure, and Ricochet to NXT.
Ooh, okay. All right. So SmackDown. I agree. Moving Adam Cole to SmackDown. I'm also moving Drew McIntyre to SmackDown.
I almost said Drew.
To Raw.
You got 3.
Yep. I'm going to move Karrion Kross to Raw.
Okay.
Well, I'm okay. I'll let you decide this. I want to move him and Scarlett. Does that count as one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fine.
So Scarlett and Karrion Kross, I'm moving to Raw. So that's one. I am going to move. I'm going to move Big E to Raw.
I thought about that.
And I'm also going to move. I'm going to move Sami Zayn to Raw. I don't really have an explanation. I just give him a change of scenery.
Why not?
To NXT.
These are the fun.
These are the fun ones. NXT. I'm moving Shinsuke back to NXT.
Okay.
And I'm moving Cesaro to NXT.
Okay.
Because you move those two to NXT right away. You've got.
There's 900 direction. One, you have a tag team.
You have a tag team.
So if they wanted to not be in the main card picture right away, you have the tag team. You could split them up and have them face each other and actually have the match of the year probably. And then you have two guys who could be NXT champion.
Either one of them could be North American champion. That's really that's going to be the fun part of the draft for me is to see who goes to NXT.
My concerns would be that they won't send somebody, that they'll send somebody that's already been there before, though. Like, I'm nervous that they're not going to pick somebody to NXT like a Cesaro. I would say Big E because he wasn't really there at its peak.
That'd be an interesting move.
Dolph Ziggler, like, there are some names that I'm like, okay.
I'd almost be okay with that, too.
Bobby Roode, like, Bobby Roode was there when it was starting to really peak. But, yeah, I
here's one thing that would not shock me is if WWE does bring back Aleister Black and put him on NXT.
That's where he wanted to be. I almost think he wants to be in NXT. Like, if he had his choice of the lot.
Which has nothing to do with the draft, by the way. That's just a side.
And someone actually asked that question earlier. So it's interesting that you bring it up because they asked about, was Zelina Vega returning to SmackDown? Which, by the way, let's just touch on that for a second. That kind of blew my mind because she had a lot of things to say about WWE when she exited, as far as no unionization, also not being able to have rights to her channel and, not being able to do her monetization of YouTube and all those things that she does, Twitch, all those things that she does.
A lot of opinions.
But then comes back and signs a deal without Aleister. Aleister just got released and then you sign a new deal. Like, it almost seemed like you guys just got the perfect scenario to go somewhere else together. Mm-hmm. And then you sign back with SmackDown. And not as a manager, as a wrestler.
Yep.
And so that's intriguing, which makes me think maybe they are talking Aleister Black. Like I told you, there's a handful of guys that were released, like a Samoa Joe, that I felt like it was to get him out of their deal because they're making too much money to put them back on NXT, to restructure their deal to where it's like, okay, let me restructure a deal for you so you can be where you want to be, still make good money, be where you want to be, maybe recreate yourself or reestablish yourself, and then we'll go. So,
which, for what it's worth, I actually read, not only did, this is just a rumor, I not only read that Samoa Joe didn't take a pay cut, he actually got a raise out of going over to NXT. Now, I don't know the details of that. I don't even know if it's true or not, but
he had to change his roles. And I don't think there was a way to, because of how contracts are set up, he was still under what I believe was a superstar contract.
Yeah.
And I think what they just did was moved him to an actual administrative role that allows him to wrestle if need be and if cleared. But honestly, I think he's like their top talent search now or talent development now in NXT, which is a great role for Joe.
Oh, for sure.
He's still a TV personality, so he's still on air, which is great for television. And he got a pay raise, and he's where he probably should be, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
I would have liked to see Joe get a Raw or SmackDown main title run at least once. And it's not to say that we won't, but I would have really liked to have seen that when he was there, and I think they missed that opportunity. But
for what it's worth, though, I actually read, might have been last week, that Joe was told not to expect a move to Raw or SmackDown, but that's to his benefit. That's what he wants. So
Yeah, never say never.
right,
But I think NXT is the perfect spot for Joe.
yeah, not anytime soon. I want to read some of these draft predictions, picks, what have you, that you guys sent. Thomas says Drew to SmackDown. Drew says I would put Seth Rollins back on Raw. I don't like him on SmackDown. It's not that I don't like him on SmackDown.
His gimmick.
I don't like the gimmick. I agree.
I would bring back, and it doesn't even have to be face. I would just bring back that Seth Rollins that beat Brock Lesnar, though. And that character could have been heel, too. So I think that's where he thrived. I really think that this gimmick was a step back.
Agreed.
In the wrong direction.
Drew says he likes Drew to SmackDown as well. Jamie says T-Bar and Mace to NXT. I like T-Bar and Mace where they're at just because I don't really care for either of them at this point.
I would agree if they could drop the T-Bar and Mace gimmick and reestablish themselves back as Dominic Dijakovic and is it Dedrick Mason or Derek Mason or what was that guy, the announcer? I forget his name now. What he was going by before Mace.
Dio something.
Dio Madden.
Dio Madden. That's right.
Thank you.
I was never on board with Dijakovic though, for the most part.
I think they would be good NXT fillers and work on their character. I thought Dijakovic had something building in NXT at least. I felt like he was headed in the right direction.
I felt like Dijakovic was a roller coaster.
Right. Like I thought he was here though at the moment. And it only takes being here one time to continue to
keep
go
going.
up.
Yeah.
And I felt like they really shot that. So really anybody that was a part of that crappy faction, I wouldn't mind seeing Mia Yim actually go back down to NXT as well.
Jamie also says Drew to SmackDown with Kevin Owens. Oh, he corrected himself. KO to Raw. He says Adam Cole to Raw. Let's see.
Really, either or is fine, but
Jason says Ellsworth to SmackDown. Jamie says Karrion Kross and Finn Balor to SmackDown. I didn't think about Finn Balor. I think I'd like to keep him on NXT for now.
I don't know if he'll be a part of the draft as much as he will just be like a debut after the draft, though.
Yeah. David says Otis and Gable to NXT. I kind of like that.
I like Otis. I don't know how I feel about Gable. My thing is I actually would be okay if Gable really just transferred to just being a straight manager. I'm not saying his in-ring ability is not good. He is. He's just boring. I can't put my finger on it, but it's like every match I watch, I was like, it's not that you're not doing things right. I'm just bored with your match. And I don't know if that's because he doesn't know how to put a story together or he doesn't know how to create the story to continue, whatever it is. But Otis, especially with the gimmick change, I told you they should have done this gimmick change while he had the briefcase. Otis with the briefcase now would be a scary thought because I like the intensity. I like the heel. I like the new special move off the top rope. This is the Otis they should have gave the money in the briefcase to, not the Hammond slamming, Mandy Rose loving.
Yeah. No, I agree. Let's get to some more questions, guys. Get your questions in on the live chat thread, and hopefully we'll get to them. Let's get to Andrew's question. He asks, what is your least favorite gear of your favorite wrestler?
Least favorite attire.
Least favorite attire for your favorite wrestler. So I guess Bret Hart is his favorite. He says WrestleMania 4 gear. I don't recall what Bret Hart wore at WrestleMania 4, so let's take a look. Oh, I think it was like the all black or something like that. I gotta go back and look. Oh no, so he had the. Okay, so he had a basically long pink tights, but with the black, not a singlet, but the whatever.
Right.
But it had the pink long tights had 2 black stripes down the side. I don't know. I actually kind of like that, but I see where he's coming from. So Cena's obviously your favorite. What is your least favorite attire for John Cena?
The funny thing about Cena is that, I mean, he only had two, I'll say 2.5 gimmicks.
There's not a lot to choose from.
He literally, in his best part of his career, wore the same thing. One of his shirts, some khaki or jean shorts, and some tennis shoes. So the two things that stick out to me with him would either be his gear back when he was like an FCW, like the actual tights, where he just looked like the created character off any of wrestling video games. I would say I didn't like that. And more recently, when he's come back, the haircut just looks so weird on him in a wrestling ring. The pretty boy comb back, whatever you want to call it, haircut that he has now, just it almost takes away from the nostalgic of him, I guess. And it was almost, even like in his match with The Fiend, I almost felt like he looked super old because of the haircut, like he was trying too hard to fit in, if that made sense. So really, more recently, like if we're going based off his actual John Cena gimmick, the haircut more recently kills me on him, because I liked his Dr. Thumbnomics get-ups and I liked his John Cena get-up. So the haircut, and then back in like right when he came in, FCW type gear, where he was John Cena, the created character.
So I can't find a good picture of it, but I will say that
OVW, that's what I meant. Thank you.
I will say that I think it was at a WrestleMania he wore these, or maybe, I don't know. It was whenever he was doing his Doctor of Thugonomics gimmick. So it was pre-mega face Cena run. He wore, I think they were like these high top Adidas black shoes, but they were like the shiny vinyl, or maybe it's not vinyl, but just like these high top Adidas shoes that just super cool. I wish I could find a picture of it. And I honestly, I don't remember who he wrestled. It might have been a pay-per-view. I wanted to say it was a WrestleMania, but it could have been a SmackDown. I feel like he wrestled either Undertaker or Lesnar, but I'm kind of just flying off the cuff and almost guessing at this point. I can't find it. But by default, just because of those shoes, that would be my favorite Cena gear. But anyway, so as far as so Flair is my favorite wrestler of all time. If I had to pick a non-favorite gear, had to have been whenever he wrestled on the last Nitro in a T-shirt, just because he wasn't in the best shape. He still wore his normal tights, but I mean, it's just, if you're wearing tights and a T-shirt, it's not exactly the best look.
Right.
So, I mean, kind of by default, that's my answer. Let's see. What other questions did y'all ask? So we kind of addressed this already, but Michael asks, so he asked, do you feel there would be an Adam Cole O'Reilly 3? Yes, we do. He said, what would the stipulations be? So we can kind of talk more specifically about this. We kind of hinted at it a little bit. If their first one was an unsanctioned match, you almost have to have the third like in a cage or Hell in a Cell situation. But to me, it almost seems like that even wouldn't be enough. So it's like, what do you do? Like, do you have a first kind of match? Like, do you have like a triple cage or just a first for NXT kind of match?
Because of the two that are involved, I would like to see, they did this with Johnny Gargano and Adam Cole, like a best of 3 match during the night. Like, it's Kyle O'Reilly versus Adam Cole 3, but they each get to pick a stipulation, and then the third match
each fall has its own.
It's best 2 out of 3 falls, but they get to pick the stipulations for each fall, and then I think the third one was either voted on by fans or decided, or the first one was the last one was just a standard wrestling match, I think it was. So
yeah,
I would actually really be intrigued by that, because we could see a no DQ, we could see a submission match, Kyle O'Reilly with all the submissions. We could see one stipulation being submissions only, one being no DQ, and then end it with a bang with an actual straight wrestling match again. At that point, I think we would have saw enough for me to be like, that's a great end to a great story.
Yep.
So I'm kind of there with also the stipulation being loser leaves NXT. I like whoever mentioned that. I really like that stipulation because I think Kyle O'Reilly has to win that match. And once, please, no. David Tilley, don't ever bring that match up ever again. Like,
hey, look, in all fairness, there's an article I read yesterday. Tony Khan actually, did not pay however much money it was to the Pyro guys that screwed that spot up. And 2, he actually got money back from, I guess, a deposit or something he put down. He did an interview with Sports Illustrated or somebody, I forgot who, but basically saying that, I don't know. At the time, I was very disgusted by it. I just look back on it now and laugh. I think it's...
Don't ever bring it up.
I think it's hilarious.
Don't ever, don't ever bring it up because, like, it was that bad.
What's funny though too is, I don't think I actually saw it for myself. I either someone told me about it or it was a post I saw on social media or whatever. But the exploding barbed wire shirts that they had on AEW. I think they still actually have them, like on Shop AEW or Pro Wrestling Tees or whatever. I think you can still buy them. There are people that were trying to sell them on eBay for like a couple $100.
Yeah, I would be mad too that I bought that shirt.
But why would you try to sell it for a couple $100? I'd go the exact opposite and be like, this match sucked. I'm going to sell it for $5.
I saw firework displays this past weekend that were still bigger than that match. And
you can go buy sparklers and light 10 of them and it would still be better than what that crap was.
Don't ever, David Tilley, don't you ever bring that up ever again.
You know he's going to bring it up every show now.
It literally should be buried.
He's going to find a way to bring that up in any spot that he can, just like I find any excuse to play this.
And his name is John C.
Coal miner glove match. I love it.
Coal miner. A thumbtack match. Hey, listen, that actually...
You sound like Billy Madison. Don't you ever say that.
An I Quit match? Iron Man. I thought Matt Sylvia. I thought Iron Man match.
I feel like the I Quit match has been overdone.
I would entertain an Iron Man match idea. If it was no DQ, I think I could get on board with an Iron Man match.
What has NXT not done? I don't mean that's not a sarcastic question. Let's think about this. What gimmick matches has NXT not done? I feel like
mud wrestling.
Jeez.
Any kind of nope, that's not true. They did do like a food match.
Well, a gimmick match that would fit. So you can't do a buried alive match unless Halloween Havoc. I mean, that's a little ways away, but they'll probably have their
too far off.
That's probably too far off, but it has to fit either the wrestlers
An ambulance match. They haven't done that on NXT.
A First Blood match.
First Blood has that's nostalgic.
Ooh, the Four Corners match. I like it. Like where you have to drag your opponent to the four corners. That's a good one.
Anything on a pole. The cowbell match doesn't make sense because of the gimmick. I could see the Four Corners match because you got to really beat your opponent down for that.
David, I'm gonna boot you from all of our pages. Not really. The Punjabi prison match.
Literally, that was a one-time only match. It actually looked kind of cool when they did.
Oh no. I think we've had 3 Punjabi prison matches.
No, you are right.
At least 2 for sure.
2, I think I can remember 2 now. The structure was cool. The match itself was not. But
I wasn't even a fan of it.
A
chain match? That would be...
A chain match would make sense because Kyle O'Reilly used the chain. A pillow fight. That would be one of the most intense pillow fights I've ever seen.
What would be a funny spot is if someone actually brought a pillow in the ring and you hit a guy with it, but then the wrestler like sells it hardcore, so you're just like, what the heck?
That's an Orange Cassidy type.
But then you empty out the pillow and there's like tacks or glass or something inside it. Like, I mean, there's obviously a cushion, but then there's like stuff sticking out of it. I don't know. I feel like we've gone through a lot of them. I'd be a fan of so you could actually integrate a chain match with the four corners aspect.
Yeah.
A dog collar match.
Yeah, I have a hard time believing they'll do that just because it was so fresh in NXT or in AEW that I don't really see.
They did just do the Butler thing.
That's a little bit more subtle, though.
I mean, yeah, people are saying the triple cage. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me because you're not going to be in the Thunderdome anymore. You can, and you might have been able to fit a triple cage in the Thunderdome. Not really sure. It'd been harder, I think, but because you're at that point, you're going to be back on the road. Triple cage, I don't think it's even been done by WWE. Period. That'd be completely new.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a couple that like a first blood match is intriguing, just because NXT likes to go for the nostalgia type stuff, and that hasn't been done probably. I don't know. Let's think back. I can't remember the last first blood match. I want to say it was like a Triple H match.
I know. I think it's Triple H and Flair had a first blood match.
Maybe a decade.
It's been a while.
Maybe a decade. I'd be okay. The four corners match intrigues me. An Iron Man match does intrigue me. I wouldn't be against that.
Let's keep going with some more of y'all's questions. And if you can find one, feel free. I'm just scrolling through here. If you all have any other questions, feel free to ask. I'm trying to sort through all of your responses to the questions. Is Jason Jordan, so Jamie asked us, is Jason Jordan, and in parentheses Kurt Angle's son, still under contract?
I believe so. I think he's still with them on the producer side of things.
Yes, he is currently he's a lead producer, actually.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I knew he was a producer, but I didn't know he was a lead producer. So this was as of April of this year. He was reportedly promoted to a new role of lead producer, overseeing all other producers at TV tapings. So that's interesting. I did not know that.
So Drew asked this question. Alex won't really be able to answer because he did not watch Raw. But he asked, what did you guys think of MVP's match? I was surprised. I liked it more than I thought. I thought MVP looked good for not being in a ring.
Who did he wrestle?
He was in a tag match. Him and Bobby Lashley versus Kofi and Xavier.
So I mentioned this last week. What's really interesting is that they brought Xavier back when it looked like he was going to be out for a while.
Yep.
And of course, I know this is, card subject to change, but I'm not surprised because they advertised MVP and Lashley versus Kofi and Drew McIntyre on some house shows a couple months down the road. My guess is that's probably going to change at this point, but I wouldn't be surprised to see MVP wrestling more.
Yeah, he had played the whole injury card 2 weeks ago that he's still not cleared to wrestle or whatever. But he looked like he could still go in the ring. Obviously, we don't need to see him because of the role he plays with Lashley. Until Lashley loses the belt, we don't really need to see him in a main wrestling role right now. I think he's killing it as a manager. But I thought it was good for what it was, for sure.
Michael asks, when will NXT be going back on the road?
Probably the same time.
Well, so the last thing I read was that they're actually going to get back on the road, but it'll be a little bit after Raw and SmackDown.
Well, let's keep in mind, their weekly episodic show, it was never on the road.
Yeah.
So
it was always at Full Sail, but I read that they're not going back to Full Sail either.
No, they built this new place for them. Like, this is their new spot.
At the PC?
The Capital
Wrestling Center, yeah, which is at the Performance Center.
Yeah, that's their new spot.
But as far as pay-per-views,
they'll travel for the takeovers.
They'll travel for the takeovers. But the last thing I read was that they're actually going to be getting back on the road outside of the Capital Wrestling Center soon too.
Which they did some. I don't want to say that they never did, but for the most part, I still see them being Florida-based.
So I pulled up an article. This was posted roughly a month ago. The idea for the return to touring for NXT would be to run the usual 200 to 400 seat buildings that they were running in before, known as the Coconut Loop of Central and Northern Florida. So they'll stay pretty local for their weekly shows, but as of a month ago anyway, they're going to eventually venture outside of the Capitol Wrestling Center. So we'll see. To be determined. TBD.
Thomas asked, do you think KO is going to take time off like he posted on social media?
No. Latest thing I read was that he did ask for time off, but literally just wanted 2 weeks off, which equated to just being off TV 1 week. And that was it.
Now, with all that being said, I could see KO not winning. Isn't his last man standing match this Friday, or did that already happen?
That was last Friday. He and Sammy had a really, really good match, a match of the year candidate from what I read.
I was blanking because I feel like I've seen the match before already, if it had happened or not yet. But who ended up winning?
KO did.
KO's in it, right?
Wait, who won the...
Who qualified for the Money in the Bank? It was KO, right?
KO, yeah.
Okay. I don't remember who won the match, and that's why I'm blanking on it all. There's just so much that has happened in wrestling, it's hard to keep it straight sometimes. But so KO being in the match, obviously, to me, signifies he's not taking any time off.
No. Yeah.
I would say that would be if he would have lost the match to Sammy, I would have probably been like, oh, that's a great way to get him some time off. But
it's not a question, but Matt says KC, so Kansas City and Chicago, are the closest WWE is getting to St. Louis. That's fine because St. Louis is getting a lot of wrestling live in the fall. I mean, we're getting a weekend of AEW, so it'll be Rampage on Friday the 4th of November. I think it's the 4th. Let me see. No, the 5th. I'm sorry. So Friday, November 5th, we're getting Rampage, which was a Dynamite when it was originally scheduled, then rescheduled again. So now it's been rescheduled for a Friday show on the 5th, but then the next night, Saturday, November the 6th, we're getting Full Gear, which I'll be there both nights. Cole and a buddy of mine will be there for Full Gear. Literally as soon as tickets go on sale for Full Gear, I'm going to be all over it. So I promise you we will be there. Hopefully on camera so you guys can see our faces more than once that week.
And our shirts.
Yeah. But then in August, NWA is also coming to town for the return of the Wrestling at the Chase. Tickets are not on sale for that yet, but Cole and I are going to look into that as well. What did I say the date on that was? Saturday so they're going to be here for 4 days.
August 31st, I think is what you said was the actual anniversary show, though.
So the 29th. So they're going to be here for 4 days. There's going to be an all-women's pay-per-view Saturday, August 28th. Their NWA anniversary show, their 73rd anniversary show is going to be Sunday the 29th. That's the one we're interested in going to. And then they're going to be doing NWA Power tapings on Monday the 30th and Tuesday the 31st. So they're going to be in St. Louis for 4 days. Lots of wrestling coming to the St. Louis area for those of you listening that are local to St. Louis as we are. A lot of stuff on the way.
Got a few questions rolling in here.
Go for it.
Rusty James says, what do you guys think of the Briscoe brothers?
Another team that should be on a bigger platform than what they are. They would be a perfect NXT team. Again, you know me. I don't like to throw everybody in AEW. There would be one that I would be interested to see in either. Because my only thing is AEW has so many great tag teams that I think that they would have more teams to play with, in a sense. That's true.
So I feel like as far as dream matches go, there's more in AEW for them. But I think the bigger platform for them would be NXT because there's not as many tag teams to go around. Like, they could eventually, if not be the marquee team of NXT for a season.
Right.
I mean, again, could you imagine them versus MSK? Could you imagine them versus Tommaso Ciampa and Timothy Thatcher? If they were to ever get moved up onto Raw or SmackDown, Street Profits, New Day, War Raiders, Viking Raiders, whatever you want to call them, Usos. There's a lot of teams there as well. So,
Jeremy says hopefully gonna try to get tickets to Full Gear. Let me and Cole know if you're gonna be at either show that Friday or Saturday. So I'll be at the one on Friday. We'll both be at the one on Saturday. Let us know if you're going to be there. We'd love to meet up with you guys just to say hey, hang out, get a picture or two. Just let us know. We'll make it happen. We'd love to meet some of you guys since, I mean, we've not done that. I've literally only run into one person randomly that recognized me from the podcast, and it's been months ago, but I think it was at a gas station. And when they told me their name, I was just like, I don't recognize your name. I've not seen you pop up on our chat thread. I didn't say that. I was, not going to be a jerk or whatever. But there's like, yeah, I watch you guys just about every week. And I wanted to be like, well, participate on the chat thread or whatever.
Chime in.
But I don't know. It's just kind of cool. But, yeah, I've only run into one person in the year and a half that we've done this that was just like, yeah, I love watching you guys whenever I can, just about every week. And so, anyway, we'd love to meet up with you guys, long story short.
Who wore it better?
I was gonna do this one.
Harley Race, Triple H, or Kenny Omega?
I'm going to say Harley Race, Triple H a close second, Kenny Omega a distant third. I mean, it's not even close.
So I'm going to flip you.
You're going to do Triple H
first. I'm going to
first.
go Triple H.
The long hair did add to it. That's why it's a close second. But
I'll go Harley Race, and then I won't even acknowledge Kenny Omega. Like, I don't even acknowledge it because it looks that bad. I can't. I just can't.
Dave, I'll let you tackle this one first. How would you orchestrate a John Cena heel turn?
I feel like I've talked about this some. For the most part, he doesn't have much that he has to do. People already boo him. So it's not like he has to come in and make this dramatic thing. If it was me, if I was in charge of story creative, I would have him come back here at SummerSlam. I would have him go against Roman Reigns, and I would have him essentially beat Roman Reigns as the face, because people are going to cheer him. It's going to happen against Roman Reigns.
Well, hold on. If you have John Cena against Roman Reigns, you're going to have people cheering Cena and booing Roman prior to anything happening.
Yep.
If you have a John Cena heel turn and then an attempt at a Roman Reigns face turn, so a double turn, you're going to have those reactions amplified. You're going to have people cheering Cena even more and booing Roman even more. That's how I see this happening.
That's why I wouldn't have him make the turn against Roman. What I would do is I would have him beat Roman as the face, win the belt, and then the very next night after, take Roman off TV, like just gone, like he disappears. Have John Cena then the very next night or very next show, whatever, being SmackDown, it wouldn't be the very next night, but very next SmackDown taping, start being braggadocious, make the complete swerve, come out and thank the fans, but then be like, you know what? No, you guys suck, and just go completely off about how he's this new movie star and he's the biggest, baddest thing out there, and really go Hollywood with
Hollywood Part 3, because we got it with Hogan, we got it with Rock.
I think it would be just the best way to go with it, and then have your new your new hero of SmackDown come out, whether that be Big E, whether that be Cesaro, if you wanted to face turn Seth Rollins, just whoever you want to do. I would like to see if someone new against Cena, like a Big E.
I got a scenario for you. So let's just assume this happens at Mania. It probably won't. It'll probably happen at SummerSlam. You know what? Let's just say SummerSlam. I think this would be bigger if it happened the night after WrestleMania. I think you'd have the crowd reaction. But who knows? We might have the crowd reaction after SummerSlam just because crowds will still be...
We're back on the road now.
Well, crowds will still be fairly new at that point.
Yep.
Either way, you have Cena win the belt, come out on SmackDown or whatever, and Cena wouldn't even have to really do any. He wouldn't have, like you said, he wouldn't have to do much of anything. He could just come out and at first be like himself or whatever, and then do a, like he's just looking around the crowd, cameras focused on him, looking around to everybody in the audience, kind of this half smirk on his face, and then all he has to do is just lose the smirk, get a serious look on his face, and give the crowd the double bird, and just like go around and. Do you know what kind of reaction that would get? I mean, that would just be like...
Again, and it would be a way for Cena to build other people, right? Because this is how you could build a new hero.
Well, here's what I'm getting at. So then after that, Cena can proceed to do an interview, whatever. And for purposes of this, I would bring back the old theme so people could recognize it more. I'd bring back the old Undisputed Era theme and have Adam Cole debut. You're off to the races with a new feud. Adam Cole's on SmackDown. He's in the title picture. Adam Cole versus John Cena. I mean, that's huge.
I agree. But Adam Cole wouldn't win that match. I think John Cena would have
Not the first one.
I think John Cena would have to carry the belt. And the only way that this would be a good move for WWE is to get the payoff that they want, which would be the Roman Reigns face run that they were wanting him to have. So then you could eventually have Cena hold it for 5-6 months as a part-time wrestler. Do the Brock Lesnar treatment with him. Have him off TV. I hate that they do that, but I think it would be the best way to get Roman over is if Roman's off TV for a while. When he comes back against a heel, John Cena, that is over as a heel. Put the belt back on him maybe 3 or 4 months before WrestleMania, and then right at WrestleMania season, you can still do your Roman versus Rock feud that you want.
Thomas says Cena beats Roman and comes out next show with Heyman.
I don't see the Heyman thing would be overplayed at that point. I don't see Heyman getting with really another wrestler. I think it would only be Roman and Brock at this point.
Here's what I don't want. I don't want Heyman I don't want Roman to go off TV, but then we have Brock return with Heyman. That's been overdone.
Right. Like it would have to be storyline written. It would have to be that Heyman turned on Roman in a Roman storyline or something along those lines for me to get on board with it.
Let's see. Steven asks, what are your thoughts? Let's do Steven's 2 questions back to back. He says, what are your thoughts about the AW show coming to St. Louis? I've been excited about it since it was supposed to be here April of last year. And due to the pandemic, they've had to reschedule it a few times. I'm excited about Full Gear being in St. Louis. It's the first AEW pay-per-view to be in St. Louis. It's the first pay-per-view to be in St. Louis for quite a while. I want to say the last one was it Survivor Series of... Let me look. Give me just a second, guys. I want to say it was Survivor Series whenever Sting debuted. Let's see. No, I'm sorry. So this would have been Money in the Bank of 2017. June 28th, 2017. St. Louis, AJ versus... Oh, yeah, that was a Money in the Bank ladder match. AJ versus Shinsuke, Sammy, Kevin, or KO, Dolph, Baron Corbin. They only had 6 guys in that Money in the Bank ladder match. I'm used to the 8. So that was the last one. We actually had one before. Hold on. Man, has it been that long? Okay, yeah, we've had 2 in St. Louis since then, because that was Survivor Series 2014. So there was one. There was Battleground in 2015 that was headlined by Seth versus Brock Lesnar. But yeah, St. Louis has not had a wrestling pay-per-view event in what will be over 4 years. So cool stuff. I'm excited about it.
Jeffrey asks.
Hold on. I wanted to get to Steven's other question too.
Oh, okay.
And mine's going to be a quick answer. He says, if Double or Nothing returns to Vegas in May 2022, would you guys go? I'd love to go, but probably not.
Yeah, we were just talking about this. I had talked about maybe trying to go to SummerSlam or Money in the Bank just because I'm pumped that crowds are back. But when you start to put the trip together, I have a wife.
It gets expensive.
You know, it's not like I'm going by myself. You know, it doubles the cost of going, and it's like, okay, do I really want to spend this much on going out to this for this event when I could just wait and get one closer? So Vegas would not be a target spot for me. I'd be waiting for it to get closer to our area, a surrounding state that's maybe more drivable than having to fly.
Let's do one more question while we're kind of still on this topic. Who do you hope to see? David asks, who do you hope to see live when you go to the AW pay-per-view? Like, who do we hope to see? I actually read that question, like, who do we hope to see live, like a debut kind of thing. I guess I just read it wrong in my head.
As far as, like, talents that they already have, there are a handful of people, I guess, that I would be pumped to see.
So I have the benefit of going 2 nights, so I'll probably see the majority of their roster. But you and Austin being only be able to go to the pay-per-view, I mean, I'll let you answer this just because.
It's always enjoyable to see Chris Jericho. So
agreed.
Especially now that everybody sings his theme song, I'm kind of pumped to be in the crowd when his music hits, if his music hits. So hopefully we see him.
Which, by the way, this is a silly rumor if this is true. I heard they want to give him new theme music sometime before the year is over.
You said what now?
Jericho, they want to give him. I read a rumor that they want to give him new music before the year's over.
I don't know why you would do that.
I don't know why they changed up John Moxley's theme, but they did. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up. Just
I guess because I am more of a WWE fan just because I've watched it longer. Some of the WWE guys that have come over there, so Miro, Jake Hager, a lot of those guys. I'm really digging the Ethan Page Scorpio Sky stuff.
I am too.
So Sting, obviously, if Sting comes out, I'll probably fangirl out. But there's a handful. Jurassic Express,
dude,
Lucha Bros,
Jungle Boy's theme, man, that's gonna be. I can't sing it right, but it's.
You don't have to though.
Yeah,
that's what's beautiful about wrestling is that you don't have to. So there's a lot of people that I'd be pumped to see, but honestly, I'm more pumped just to be there.
Yeah,
like I can't. This will be my first wrestling pay-per-view attended live. Mm-hmm. I've never been to a live. I'm trying to make sure I'm saying that accurately. I've never been to a live pay-per-view.
This will only be my second.
So I'm pretty pumped to start off with this pay-per-view because now I'm like, okay, I know once I go to one, I'm gonna want to go to like everyone after that. So
anything that comes to St. Louis, it's just like
I'm pretty pumped, but it's really just about the entire experience, I think, for me.
Anyway, you were going to take a question earlier, and I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
Well, I just saw it, and I didn't want to look over it because it's actually a decent question. Jeffrey Capo asks, what do you think about AEW not giving spots to the folks who were on Dark and Dark Elevation? Those folks are now scrambling to find indie dates. I would say 2 things. One, if you are on Dark or Elevation and you are not one of their guys who are also used on the main card, if you will, on the main show, you should have already been thinking about other plans because they're not locked in to contracts to where they can't go do indie dates anyways. As someone, I can compare this similarly because booking is the same setup. I do music. I travel and I do music. I also have a local home church that I youth pastor at. So I youth pastor on a weekly basis, but I'm not locked into having to do that every week. I have a great team that other people can step up. If I don't go and book those dates myself, they're not getting booked. If I don't go and get myself this event or that event, yada, 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 I never book any other events. I'll only always be doing this one thing, which I'm not against. Same with them. They're probably not against always doing Dark or Elevation. But if they wanted to expose themselves to more fans, get themselves out there more, you should have already been booking indie dates. It's not that I don't feel bad for them. It's just you weren't locked into contracts anyways. So you could have been booking these indie dates
months ahead of time.
now that they're all coming back,
Yeah.
I would have wanted to get myself more indie dates. I would have wanted to put myself out there a little bit more. So I really think that it shows their initiative, like they were almost just banking on Dark or Elevation panning out for them to the point that they get to go on the road and maybe get a contract, and that's just kind of poor planning. So,
well, see, here's my thing too. I mean, you've got guys that are under AEW contracts still doing indie dates because it's in their contract that they can. So that means they're actively still getting dates themselves. I mean, even as an AEW performer with a contract, it does say in their contract that you can do indie dates. They're still being proactive with getting indie dates. So, like, Brian Cage is still doing indie dates. I've seen
Ethan Page is
doing. Yeah, go ahead.
There's another promotion we're talking about shows coming to St. Louis. Glory Pro Wrestling, I think, is the promotion.
Yep.
They're coming. They have Warhorse on it. They have Ethan Page, I think, is the main event. Was it Dan Von Hausen or whatever his name is?
Danhausen.
Danhausen. I know he's a decent name in the indie scene. So they have other names on this card. So the guys who are on AEW's main TV show are still booking indie dates. So shouldn't that have told you something? Like, I guess not that I feel bad. It does suck that they're now maybe going to be struggling financially. But
it's a catch-22 situation.
But for me, from someone who lives that life of having, I don't do anything else, guys. Like, I literally now only travel and speak and do my music. So,
pandemic aside, you need to be proactive.
That is now how I make my living. If I don't go and put myself out there and book these events and make myself known and available and accessible, people are not going to call you. They're not going. If you're on Dark or Elevation, you are not as cool or as desired as you think you are. If AEW themselves won't put you on the main card, what makes you think somebody else is calling you when they know Ethan Page is also taking bookings too?
Yeah.
When they know Brian Cage is also taking bookings too. That's a bigger promotion for them. They're going to call those guys.
I mean, they're guys like anybody. Luchasaurus, Marco Stunt's doing the GCW show that's coming up.
Yep.
I saw Luchasaurus on an indie poster on Twitter recently. I mean, I could probably rattle off at least a dozen AEW performers that have a contract that they're still doing indie dates. I mean, I know Chris Statlander's one of them. So
you got to use common sense. That's my point. Is that I just don't really feel bad for them because I think common sense says I should probably start booking other things too.
Yeah.
Because everybody else is.
Mm-hmm.
It go with the flow at least. Everyone else is booking. If I can get on this, even if I'm not the main person, if I can get on these shows, it's always better. More exposure is better.
And let's just be real, guys. Even if you have a contract with AEW or WWE or whatever, I don't know the structure of these contracts, but obviously you can get released from them. Hence the reason that, guys like that we've mentioned so far are still doing independent dates, independent shows. Joey Janela, obviously, because, I mean, GCW is like his big thing.
Todd Nichols, thank you. This is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. There's a show coming to Lubbock, Texas. I don't even know. Lubbock, whatever you want to call that. In a couple weeks that I'm going to, that's going to have the Ascension, Big Cass, Enzo, Lance Archer, the TNA Women's Champ. I can't think of her name. Isn't that
Deanna Prazo?
I think Deanna's still the champ.
I think so.
I could be wrong on that.
I'm looking.
Either way, that is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. That is a show that Texas is going to be pumped about because those are names of people that they would want to see. That it has that feel to it for an indie show. If you're on AEW Dark or Elevation, I'm sorry you've not made it.
That's no disrespect to you, but it's just a fact.
It's a great stomping ground. It's a great way to get your name out there, but you've not made it because if you had, then why is Ethan Page, Brian Cage, Luchasaurus, all these guys also still doing indie shows?
Yeah.
It's not that they're beneath them, but it's because they know I haven't made it. I got to go make this money. I got to go put myself out there, continue to build my platform. A lot of the guys that have made it to NXT or even beyond NXT have done so because they didn't wait around for people to call them and beg them to come do their show. They went and said, no, I'm coming to do your show. I want to be a part of what you're doing. And they put themselves out there. So I'm hoping that answers your question. Is that I don't, it's not that I don't feel bad for them. It sucks if you're financially struggling. I've been there. I get it. But I also would question your drive if you hadn't been booking or at least attempting to book. It's another thing if you were attempting to book and people just weren't picking up the phone or whatever. But ultimately, I would have to probably blame the talent more than I would the promotions that are booking.
Speaking of GCW, we'll tackle this question real quick. Anyone pumped for the Cardona versus Cage match?
I am intrigued.
I'm intrigued, but that's about it as far as I go. Just because I'm not down with all the light tubes and hardcore wrestling. That's just me. Not no disrespect to you guys that are into it. That's fine. It's just not my.
That is like the death metal version of wrestling. Like it is.
I'm intrigued from the standpoint that Matt Cardona is going to be in a match and environment like that, but
I am definitely intrigued. I probably won't watch the whole card. If I decide to watch, I will probably fast forward straight to that main event.
David asks, are they doing a fan fest type thing for the pay-per-view you're going to? I don't know yet, but I hope so. Because I've already told my wife, I was like, that Friday and Saturday,
I'm unavailable.
Well, that Friday and Saturday, so that Friday I'm gonna come into work, but probably leave a little bit early so I can hopefully beat the crowds for the Rampage show. And then I told her that Saturday, I might literally be leaving the house at like noon if there's any kind of a fan fest kind of thing. So I hope they do. We'll see.
We do plan to be there promoting our show, so we'd like to get there pretty early so we can our goal is to try to engage other audience members, not to the point of like being annoying, but just trying to get some mingling out there and casual conversation, hoping that we can kind of make connections with people.
We won't be loitering. We're not going to be like passing out.
We had a blast. We went to the show in Champaign, Illinois for AEW when they first kind of kicked off, and we had a blast. We went super early. We were like one of the first people in the door, and we had a really great time just chatting it up with people and talking, not even necessarily about the show, but just about wrestling, and just led to some great conversations. So we plan to be there for that.
And like I said, just to reiterate, if you're going to be at either AEW show that that Friday for Rampage or for Full Gear on that Saturday, I think that's the 5th and 6th. Again, let us know. We'd love to meet up with you guys to chat, get a picture, shoot the breeze, whatever.
Autographs are $5 though.
Cole might charge you for an autograph. You guys can have mine for free.
It's a buy one get one.
There you go. Where are your seats for the St. Louis show? Steven asks. So mine for the Friday show is front row. I hope to get front row for the pay-per-view as well. Like I said, as soon as they go on sale, I don't know the date yet. I don't think they've released a date, but as soon as they go on sale, I'm all over Ticketmaster.
Change your words, buddy. We're getting front row. We are getting front row for Full Gear. I don't want to hear maybes. It's happening, y'all.
It is happening. Do a few more questions. Let's see. Steven asks, going to do a live show. We would like to do something in the future. We've talked about going to like an independent show locally, but also doing a podcast live while we're there. We've talked about it. That's about as far as we've got, but we'd love to do it at some point.
We've talked about
like a live on location kind of thing.
We've talked about supporting. There's a few local promotions here in the area. We've talked about trying to get in and support them a little bit, and talked how cool it would be to maybe do a podcast on site in a sense. But those things are still kind of the lower level type things are still kind of trying to figure themselves out still. So as we continue to get back to whatever you would call normal, I think we'll start to head that way at some point. But right now, it's just kind of waiting it out to see how things pick up.
We're going to do a couple more questions, and then we'll wrap up the show with our complete list of Jericho book giveaway. Jeremy asks, is AEW going to be at the Dome in St. Louis? No, it'll be at the Chaffetz Arena for both shows. I don't know that we'll ever see a wrestling show at the Dome because that's a lot of butts in the seats to try to fill.
It would have to be a pay-per-view.
Oh, for sure.
I don't see either company choosing St. Louis for their destination for something that big.
David asks, any autographs you would like to get?
To be honest with you guys, when we went to the Champagne show, we were there in time to get in on the autograph signings, and there was, I think we both said there was only like one that we would even entertain of potentially wanting to go to, but the prices to get in and wait the line and all that stuff were kind of ridiculous for the names that they had. I mean, one was the librarian, and no diss to him, but I had no
desire to pay $50 to wait in line. And
I think it was him. I'm trying to remember who it was. It was him.
It was Peter Avalon and Leva Bates were both of them. That's when they were both the librarians at the time.
Was it Penta?
Yeah, I think Penta was one of them, and I think Orange Cassidy.
I think we were like, but to get all three of them, it was like a ridiculous price. Otherwise, you had to do them separately, which was the same price as going for all three of them at that point.
Yeah, that's why I remember. I remembered it was like priced really odd.
Yeah, it would really depend on who's there. Like if it was a Sting that was out there,
which I have.
Cody Rhodes, maybe.
Got it.
There's a handful of guys maybe that because it's a pay-per-view, maybe they would have bigger names out there. I would be intrigued to see who they are, but with bigger names probably come bigger price tags. I'm not paying that much money to get somebody's signature, just being real.
I'm not paying really anything to get someone's signature. It's one of those things where if I'm at a live wrestling show and someone walks by and I happen to have a picture of them or a shirt of theirs that I'm wearing. Like, for example, if I go to a show and I'm like the Friday show, if I wear my Pinnacle shirt or whatever, or my Horseman jacket, because it'll be November at that point, I wouldn't mind getting like FTR signature on that Pinnacle shirt, something like that.
Right.
But besides that, I'm just kind of like, I'm not paying for autographs, if that makes sense. I'm not that enamored like I would have been like as a 10-year-old, if that makes sense. Let's see.
Some of these are funny.
Hold on just 1 second. Okay, Bruce, I'm glad you brought that up. So we're actually going to move the belt giveaway drawing to next week because I told Cole I had like 4 people message me and say we're not actually doing our 4th of July party or gathering until the following weekend. And I think a large part was due to wherever these people were located, just due to weather and rain and stuff, so they had to postpone it, which I get. So we're actually going to move that to next Wednesday because I want to give people a chance to send us their pictures and post them on social media. So we will be doing that next Wednesday. And by the way, next Wednesday will be our last show in studio for a few weeks. We'll keep you guys updated on future house shows, if you will. But
we will be predicting Money in the Bank, I believe.
Next week, yep.
Next week, so that'll be a great show to tune in on because there's a lot to talk about there.
Let's see. 1 or 2 other questions, and then we'll get to this book giveaway. Let's do Jamie and David's questions, then we'll wrap up with that. Jamie asks, what title do you see Omega losing first and who takes it? Sorry if you answered this already. I mean, we've kind of hinted at it. We haven't really dug into
first, though. We've talked about who we think would lose it and to who, but
I think he'll lose the AAA Mega Championship next month to Andrade. I think that's the first one he drops, and I think progressively after that, it won't be long before he drops the rest of them.
I think the AAA makes the most sense because there's already a challenger for it, and he's also in AEW, so there's a two-way way to promote that.
You can build off of that.
Off that storyline. But so that's why I would be inclined to say the AAA first, because Impact doesn't really have a viable challenger yet, in my opinion, to take the belt off Kenny. Not
The rumor is Sami Callihan, but they've still got some building to do towards
not
that.
in a clean way, at least. Like he would
Yeah.
there would have to be some kind of a distraction or something. I think Sami is probably the right guy to do it if you're going to do it clean. But again, the storyline has to be built there. I think the best way to build that storyline is to actually have Kenny lose the AAA first, so his confidence is shook in a sense. So
and the fact that it's not an American or it's not in the United States kind of program or promotion or whatever. My microphone is just not cooperating this morning. That kind of just plays into my prediction. So
I do like the Andrade winning AAA first. As far as Impact goes, I think Sami Callihan would be the best fit, and I think the ultimate payoff in AEW is Hangman Page,
which I think will happen at Full Gear. Or actually, so I'm kind of torn. It could happen at All Out, but part of me wonders if that's too soon.
I'm just being real with the way AEW plays some of these storylines. I almost think Full Gear might be too soon, and that's what's concerning because the next one wouldn't be until Revolution in February.
Yep.
So that seems really far out, but they like to pull these things super long. So
and All Out being in Chicago, AEW likes their Chicago crowds. I mean, Revolution that I went to live was, if you've watched it on DVD or Blu-ray or whatever, I guarantee you it was like 10 times louder than how it came across. I mean, the crowd was just hot all night long.
Yeah.
Let's do one other question, and then we'll get to this giveaway, and then we got to wrap this thing up. And I'll kind of let you take the lead on this question. David asks, have you ever thought of doing your own wrestling show?
Like a promotional type thing where we book wrestlers to come in and actually have like an event? Is that
That's kind of how I read the question.
All right, so fun fact, I actually, and Alex knows this, I am very wrestling motivated. There is a part of me, so I have a buddy, he's a great guy, grew up in the independent scene, has a great story about him as far as wrestling. It's not my story to tell, but let's just say that there were WWE prospects involved at some point in time for him, and his life changed, and he's still doing some really great stuff in another avenue. But I'm just talking over with him. We have a lot of connections with different, like I said, local promotions here in the area. I actually had him come speak at my youth group and had all the cards checked out right, like all the boxes got checked right. I was definitely going to go through a table that night, but we just couldn't find a table that was affordable to literally buy to break. That was literally the only reason why we didn't do it. So I ended up taking a trash can to the head instead, which was still funny. But he's always told me that he really feels like I could be a really good manager, and has always tried to kind of push me to go into that role in some of these independent places here locally, of getting with somebody, working out some of the details, and maybe being a manager type role for somebody. So it's always kind of intrigued me in that regard. My church is actually very outreach minded. So we've talked about doing a family friendly wrestling show, which would be right up Going Broadway podcast alley, because we're a family friendly show as well. Doing like a charity type event, raising money for something cool in the area, and doing a wrestling show right there on our church parking lot, or in our church building even. So we've definitely talked about those things, but ultimately I've never been against the idea. I think I'm not well versed enough in the booking side of things that I would want to know more about before planning my own thing. So I'd like to get with a couple of promotions and just book them to come in and maybe learn the ropes from them a little bit. But I'm definitely not against the idea. There's, like I said, I'm a church motivated person as well. I've seen a lot of churches do the UFC fights over the years, and different outreaches and stuff like that. I think those things are cool, and I like that. And I think it'd be really dope if I could put on my own, like once a year type thing in the area. But that would be a lot of work that I really just don't have the time and energy to put into right now. That we would put into.
We would definitely need some help. From two or three other people
without knowing the ropes. Now, like I said, I got a lot of guys who are involved that could help, but for the most part, I think I would want to just book promotions to come in and me support them than I would trying to like build my own show,
Right.
in a sense.
So we're gonna wrap things up. Again, if you're watching live, you are now going to be entered into this free giveaway for the Jericho book. All you have to do to be entered into this giveaway that we're going to do here shortly is reply with the word list. LIST. Don't put a number on the front of it. You don't have to capitalize anything. All lowercase. LIST. Reply with the word list. I'll give you guys until 11:02 Central Time. So that's about 2 minutes to reply with that word so you can be entered into winning this book. While you guys are replying with that word, I want to throw up our Great American Bash Tribute GBP shirts. These are only going to be available for a little bit longer. They do come in the red, white, and blue colors that would have looked fantastic and still could look fantastic if you already have one for any late 4th of July celebrations you might be doing this upcoming week. They do also come in our standard green, black, and white colors as well. They are $25 shipped plus applicable taxes for a t-shirt, $50 shipped plus applicable taxes for a hoodie. I do hope to have a new design for our shirts when we return to our studio shows next month. Again, next week is our last in-studio show for a few weeks. Cole and I will get together and let you guys know an update / hopefully somewhat of a schedule in terms of what our podcasts will look like towards the end of this month and beginning of August. Since Cole has some commitments, I will be working from home for a few weeks. But when we return to the studio in hopefully around mid-August, and I'll keep you guys updated on an exact date. Hopefully that by that point we will have a new shirt design. But that's where I want you guys to come in. So I've got some ideas, but I want you guys to throw me some ideas as well. So if you don't have to come up with a specific design necessarily, but just give me an idea. And if you give me an idea and we roll with your idea, you will get a free t-shirt just for submitting the idea. So shoot me messages on any shirt ideas you guys might have. If you want to put together a design, feel free. We will not be paying you guys for any kind of design, but if you submit a design, you automatically give us the right to roll with that design in producing a shirt, if that makes sense. But you won't be paid any royalties for it, but you would be given a free shirt if we go with your idea. Steven asks, how close are you to giving away the 3 belts? We got to get to 5,000 Facebook likes on Facebook. I think we're about 400 away, something like that. So share our Facebook page with your friends and family and your Facebook wrestling groups if they allow it. Just let them know we got to get 300 or 400 more Facebook likes so we can do that 3 free belt giveaway. I'm gonna shut down this giveaway. Went about a minute over, but make sure everything has populated over. Just taking a look, comparing. Sorry, Ryan, you got in too late, man. We're getting ready to do a free giveaway, but I shut the this randomizer thing down about a minute or two ago. So sorry, you're just a little bit too late, but I'm just
There's always next time.
There is always next time.
Because there's always a next time.
I'm just making sure everybody has populated over. My computer's being a little slow, so I apologize for the delay. Okay, it looks like we're good to go. All right. Ryan, I appreciate it. I know people work during our podcast, but we appreciate anybody that works and tries to make the effort to catch us live. So that's why we do these giveaways. So, all right, guys, 10 clicks, the winner will receive a brand new copy of the complete list of Jericho. Here we go. 10 clicks. We got, I'll try to put this down so maybe you can hear me click and talk at the same time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And click number 10. The winner is Kyle St. Clair is our winner.
Shout out to Kyle St. Clair. Congrats to you, my man.
Congrats to Kyle.
You just made the list.
You beat me to it. Congrats, Kyle. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for everybody for entering. As we've said before, all of our winners do have to claim their prize. So Kyle has 24 hours from now, so he has to reply to me either privately through my Facebook page or through our Going Broadway podcast Facebook page by 11:05 tomorrow to claim his prize. Aside from that, that's going to about do it for us for today. Cole, any final thoughts?
Guys, as always, thank you for watching the greatest wrestling podcast ever. We sincerely appreciate it. You will not want to miss next week's show, as we will have so much to talk about on our little season finale. I don't know what you want to call it. Our little hiatus show.
We can call it a season finale.
Season
I like
finale.
that.
I might take a chair to the head or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
If you take a chair from the head, it's not coming from me.
I'll have someone throw it. I'll take one for the team.
We'll do a run in.
Either way, there'll be a huge crow call next week. I'll get real big with it. I don't know. We'll figure something out. But it's going to be a great show. You're not going to want to miss it. So make sure that you tune in with us. Make plans to be with us next week, especially knowing that it's going to be a little bit before we're back in the studio at least. Make sure that you go and make plans to be with us that week. Again, we will be having other little house shows and little tidbits here and there throughout that little hiatus. So make sure you're watching for announcements and things that go along with that as well. Don't forget to get those Going Broadway podcast T-shirts and hoodies.
Throw them
guess
up
what?
one more time.
Guess what? The fall is going to be right around the corner. And these are made to order, so it takes a couple weeks to get them. So you might as well go ahead and get your hoodie while you're at it.
Indeed.
All right, so $25 shipped plus applicable taxes, $50 for the hoodies shipped plus applicable taxes. So make sure that you get those. Message Alex or the Going Broadway podcast page to get those today. Other than that, guys, it's been a great show. Thank you for all your questions and for allowing us to do the show in general. It's a huge blast, a huge thing. So thank you so much. And I leave you with your favorite thing in the entire world.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.
This podcast was a presentation of lightupmedia.fm.